Hello, welcome to part two of Strategic Dementia Caregiver. If you haven't seen part one yet, I really recommend going back and watching that. You can find it on our YouTube content library. Those of you who have already watched part one, thank you for coming back for part two. My name is Kate. I'm one of the education associates here at Age of Central Texas. Here at Age of Central Texas, our mission statement is helping older adults and their caregivers thrive as they navigate the realities and opportunities of aging and caregiving. We do that through 5 different programs we operate here at Age. So we have our technology learning lab, just giving older adults some experience in the technology that kind of runs our world right now, just so they are staying up to date in latest practices and how to stay safe online, and keep in touch with family and friends. And then we have our Information and Resource Center. Our IRC has resources all over the Austin area. In the current 5 counties that we serve, we are also able to do some one-on-one consulting just to help you find those resources that you may be needing, or that can help you in whatever stage you're at with your care partner, yourself, whatever you're needing in that moment. Our Thrive Social and Wellness Center, that is our adult day center. So this is the place for older adults to go. We have staff on site at all times, so it's a safe way for older adults to kind of get those daily activities, have a nice schedule where they're able to interact with other people and stay busy throughout the day. Our health equipment lending program, this is our durable medical equipment. It's completely donation based, so if we have it, we're happy to lend it out to whomever may need it. There are no barriers for age or income requirements for this program. So any durable medical equipment you may need, feel free to come check if we have it. You can always call either location and we'll do our best to see if we can get you hooked up with whatever you may need. And then also our memory connections. This is primarily a virtual experience, so there are a couple in-person experiences per month. This is for those experiencing start of cognitive decline. It's a way to just get some cognitive stimulation with different activities throughout the day. And it also is helpful to make that social connection as well. Okay, moving on to our actual presentation of how to navigate being a strategic dementia caregiver, part two. Again, so this is covering that daily life. So in the first session, we kind of went over more of the scientific, what is dementia, what are dementia causing diseases, those sort of things. And now we're going to kind of get more into what does this look like in daily life? What is it like to be a care partner and then maybe even a full caregiver once your care recipient or care partner kind of gets to those later stages. So throughout this session, we're going to go, a couple of our objectives is just to better understand the role of dementia caregiving, to consider the effects of confusion and stress, to use the concept of staging with detecting and responding to behaviors, and effectively plan daily activities with those appropriate support strategies. So those accommodations based on what your care recipient may need. So the role of stress. So the role of stress for a person experiencing dementia is really important to consider. It may not be the first thing you think about when you think about all the things that person's experiencing and what they're going through, but really stress can really affect somebody both with or without experiencing dementia. So stress impacts everybody in different ways. And think of how much harder life becomes when you're super stressed or something is stressing you out and you get upset or disoriented. Now think of what that stress could be doing to somebody experiencing dementia who their cognitive ability is already not quite where it used to be. And so this can really impact how their brain is taking in stimuli and what's going on in like their thought process. So, learning how to decrease common triggers for stress for your care recipient can really have a big impact. Dementia can cause issues with processing, making sense of your surroundings and your situations. So, as your brain works harder to fill information, stress can inform the assumptions a person makes. So, let's say that somebody is hammering on the other side of the wall. So I'm going to make the assumption that there's a banging noise coming from the wall. So somebody's probably hanging up a picture, knocking on the wall, doing something. And then my brain's going to categorize that and I'm probably going to move on. But somebody experiencing dementia, they may have a bigger stress response to this. It may be scary. They may not go with that. They may not figure out what exactly is going on, and they may jump to some conclusions that are more disorienting. So they may think that somebody's trying to break in because they're hearing this pounding on the other side of the wall. If I lost my purse, I'm probably going to think I misplaced it or put it in another room, but their brain may jump to that someone stole it, and that could be scary. So if your brain is jumping to worst case scenario from different stimuli, that's going to be stressful on both them and then also others when you're trying to figure out what's going on and how these stimuli are really causing a bigger reaction in their brain than it has before. So, because the purpose of stress is to prepare your body to respond, it takes resources to your muscles while decreasing activity in your prefrontal cortex. So, the part of the brain you use to think and reason, communicate, and understand language, this is what your stress is taking resources from, and they're putting it into your muscles for that fight or flight response. And so so when you already have a cognitive decline happening if you're experiencing dementia, this is why it can be really important to try to mitigate these stresses because you're going to lose even more of your ability to reason and communicate. And it's going to put your body into this state of a heightened sense of fight, flight, all of those things that you do when you're not feeling safe. So, this can also cause those dementia symptoms to temporarily worsen. When stress hormones are released in your body and your nervous system reacts to the stress, it can worsen physical symptoms like your pain, fatigue, and insomnia. For these reasons, it's really important to understand causes of increased stress and how to address them. Also, remember that stress is contagious. So if you are feeling stressed and you're showing that, likelihood is that the people around you are also going to take that in and start to feel stressed. Because if you're stressed, then they probably think that there's a reason that they should be stressed. And so if you're feeling stressed, which is going to happen, life is hard sometimes, especially as a caregiver. So if you're feeling stressed, try to remember to take a deep breath, separate yourself for a little bit, use those coping skills so that you're not passing on that stress to your care recipient because it may send them into that state of heightened arousal and it may make them feel unsafe. So confusion often coexists with dementia. So most people have felt confused at some point in their life. I know I feel confused all the time in different situations, but think about how you feel when you're confused. You usually get a little bit of anxiety if you don't know what's going on. You may get a little scared. And so you have to work through those feelings to kind of figure out your plan, and how to communicate to move through whatever confusion you're experiencing. People who are experiencing dementia are going to struggle a little bit more to cognitively figure out where the confusion is coming from and how to plan to um, figure out what they're doing or where they need to be. And so this confusion is really going to come with that discomfort, creating that anxiety, agitation, shadowing, repeated questioning. And these are the behaviors that you're going to start to see. So it also is going to interfere with that thinking and good decision making. So it can make it harder to stay rational. So it's important to both prevent and ease confusion with possible. So some ways to prevent this are communicating clearly and concretely what you're doing with the person. One way to do this is to use, think of the language you're using, make sure that what you're saying is being clearly communicated, pay attention to their verbal and nonverbals of what information they're able to take in from you. And then maybe consider using other resources too, like pictures or one way to make sure you're communicating is having that routine. So displaying that routine for them on like a dry erase board or a calendar with pictures. And then also just having that daily routine because routines do provide that consistency and structure. So they kind of know what to expect. So this can like if you're getting up at the same time every day, and then they know that once they get up, they get dressed, and after they get dressed, it's time for breakfast. Then after that, you take the dog for a walk. This is going to help them like know what's coming throughout the day, so then they're not sitting with that confusion and they don't feel that discomfort. So now we're going to kind of move into some of the general stages of progressive dementia and kind of explore how these impact a person experiencing dementia and some strategies to help address the behaviors that come with with these stages. So the chronic disease or condition causing the dementia often progresses slowly and in steps with certain recognizable stages. That being said, this isn't true for every chronic disease or condition. As we talked about in the first series, in the first session, um, there are some that come on more rapidly, some that don't progress the same way. And even if your care recipient is experiencing one that typically progresses in this slow steps, it may not be the same for them as it is for somebody else. So make sure you take that into consideration while we're going through these stages, that this is not concrete. They're not going to hit these stages in a certain order every time in a certain time frame. So this is more of just a generalization to kind of give you some security and knowledge in what it may look like and what it typically looks like. This can also hopefully help you plan some of those caregiving strategies and supports for the future, just to help you kind of figure out where you're going, especially if you're coming to us and watching this when your care partner's in a really early stage. This might give you just some security in knowing like what the future may look like. So, one of the most important things throughout any of the stages is to focus on the skill strengths that they have and then figure out how to look for activities that are going to build on these strengths in whichever of the stages they're in, with whatever accommodations they may need to still do these activities. So figure out what that person can still do, what tasks that they can help with. And they also may take pride in contributing. So if they're still able to help with some of the chores around the house, that may give them a sense of feeling of purpose and feel like they're still contributing to the household in some way. So it's important, again, to remember that each day, each week, each month is going to look different for both them and you, depending on what they're experiencing. So let's get into some of these stages. So these stages are the Allen stages system. These were created by occupational therapists. So again, there are different staging systems. This is one of the best ones that we found that's helpful for people. But there's a lot of information out there. So definitely recommend continuing to explore different educational resources, and feel free to let us know if you have any questions. We'll have our email at the end of the slide if you would like any more resources or anything like that. But so the first stage is what we consider normal aging. This is what most adults are in. So they have normal cognitive functioning, they don't need supervision, and they're able to do most of those life skills without any help. And then, so once somebody is experiencing dementia and they start seeing this cognitive change, they're typically going to enter into this early stage. And in this early stage, this is where partnership is key. So the person diagnosed and the person who will be their main character, main caregiver, are in this partnership to learn all that they can about the disease, about what's going on cognitively, about caregiving and the strategies and behaviors that are going to come up. So, if this is the stage you're in, then this is great. I'm so glad that you're watching this presentation because it's super important just to start to try and learn everything you can. Especially because at this stage, this care partner that's experiencing dementia is still able to give their input into what's happening. They may be experiencing a bit of that short-term memory loss and impaired executive functioning, and change may be getting harder for them, but they're still able to kind of make those decisions for themselves. So they're still going to be able to do those independent, familiar activities. So at this point, you may want to start prepping. So, something like discussing a medical power of attorney, discussing who the medical care team will be. Start going to those doctor's appointments, getting those diagnoses so that you can start prepping not only yourself as the caregiver, but also as the person experiencing dementia for what may be coming up in the future. This is also a time that we really recommend the caregiver start practicing giving up being right. So it is human nature to want to be right and correct others when we deem that they're wrong. But this will frustrate you, especially as the care recipient starts to progress into other stages. So if you tell your care recipient, hey, we're going to lunch on Sunday at noon at this place with these people. Sunday morning, that short-term memory loss may kick in and they may not remember that this conversation ever happened. And so they're going to be confused about why you're getting ready to go and why you're frustrated that they're not. And so at this point, you're going to try and tell them, I told you we were had these plans, we talked about this, and they're going to insist that they knew nothing about this and that this conversation never happened. At this point, you may start to become frustrated. You may want to try to prove that you are right. You may want to argue this point because you know that this conversation happened. But this is just going to frustrate both of you, and it's not really going to get you anywhere. So this is a good time to kind of practice giving up being right and instead just try to meet them where they're at. Start agreeing with them or redirecting them just so that because in their cognitive ability, the conversation didn't happen. So neither person is really right in this situation. And so it becomes even harder to rationalize that for both you and your care recipient. So instead of letting this frustrating you, just start to practice letting it go. Give them these cues, remind them early in the morning, hey, we have these plans. And if they don't remember the conversation, well, I'll have it for the first time again that day. Okay, so moving on into that early middle stage. So this stage is characterized by becoming easily distracted, and so you're gonna see them become a little bit more easily frustrated. You may notice some more impairments in executive functioning, like decision making skills or problem solving. Also, possibly a bit of depression because they're starting to see that their cognitive ability isn't operating the same as it has in the past. And so they may have a lot of feelings about that and they may start to go into this depression. So make sure you're keeping an eye out for that and getting them the help that they may need or kind of helping them along in these feelings, just because that may happen at this stage, especially. They could be trying to conceal what's going on in their struggles because they're in denial or still coming to terms with the fact that they're not able to do these things that they used to be able to, or be as independent as they used to be able to be. So this is when it's going to be really important as caregivers to just offer that support in small ways, like giving cues, breaking down tasks. It's a time to start establishing those routines and ways to display the routine that works for both of you. So these smaller, more manageable cues that you're giving them, that way they don't feel like they're losing their autonomy or too much of themselves too quickly, but you're still offering that support so they're not getting as frustrated. One recommendation is also to have in a routine a physical aspect. So, kind of like the routine I talked about earlier, having them walk the dog once a day. This will introduce that physical memory. So, not just relying on that cognitive memory, but also muscle memory can really help them to still feel like they may remember that earlier or longer than the cognitive memory of the schedule. So that just may help them feel like they're still independent. They still have that routine going on throughout the day. Moving into the middle stage, this is characterized by the person experiencing dementia symptoms. They're showing more noticeable impairments, limited attention, and becoming easily distracted. New places are going to be much more difficult, especially if it has a lot of sensory input. So, bright lights, loud noises. This is going to overwhelm their brain because their brain is going to be trying to catalog all of these things. And somebody experiencing this middle stage of cognitive decline, their brain is going to become too overwhelmed. So they may have some weaker abstract thoughts and struggle with independent new learning. They are still able to carry out simple and familiar tasks, so this is definitely a good time to rely on those tasks throughout that day. So if they have been walking the dog every day for the last couple of months. And if they still have the ability to do that, then this is a good time to make sure we're still, having that, keeping that routine and having that be a task. Another thing is they may still have the ability to help fold laundry. Maybe they can't fold some of the smaller things, but maybe they can fold the towels or maybe they can match socks. So this is going to help them still be able to participate in those tasks, give them something to do, um, and still make them feel like they're contributing. So some things to start taking into consideration, some strategies to start using as the caregiver, just using those short, concrete directions and visual cues is going to become very important. So one example of this is getting dressed. So if you have plans and you need to leave in 30 minutes, you may tell your care partner, hey, go get dressed. 20 minutes later, you walk up and they're still not dressed. They're not doing this because they don't want to go or they want to be difficult, but more because that was a vague instruction and they're not really sure what they're supposed to be doing. So saying get dressed includes a lot of things. It can include finding their closet, picking out clothes, matching those clothes to the weather and to the activity. That's a lot of things to think about. And so instead, try to be a little more concrete with the directions. Maybe pick out two outfits that would work for whatever activity you're doing and the weather that day. And then tell them, hey, there's two different outfits on your bed. Pick one and put those on for our plans in 30 minutes. This gives them choices, so it still gives them a bit of autonomy, but it takes away some of the bigger struggles and bigger decisions that may be overwhelming for them. So you're going to want to start to take charge a little bit more, which may be uncomfortable, especially if you've had a different relationship in the past. So if this is your spouse, or especially if this is your parent, it may feel weird to start taking charge in that relationship, but it's going to be really important to start doing that so that you're giving your care recipient a little bit more structure. So the late middle stage is characterized by one's thinking being severely impaired. So at this point, the care partner experiencing a dementia symptom disease should not be left alone because it could be very unsafe at this point. It's easy for them to become impatient and easily frustrated, especially since they may become confused about purpose. In the middle of an activity or in the middle of doing something, they may completely we're doing it, which could frustrate them. And they may start to become more dependent with those activities of daily life. So they may struggle more with getting themselves dressed, eating, bathing, all of those things that used to come easy are now going to take a lot more thought process and a lot more help than it did in the past. One of the hardest parts about this stage may be that they may start to not remember their caregivers. This can make them feel confused and unsafe, and they may react negatively to this. So it's important for caregivers to keep things simple, keep a watchful eye, and also, this is going to be hard for the caregiver. If you are a caregiver of somebody who is important to you and who has been in your life for a long time and they start to have lapses where they don't remember you, this is going to be hard. This is going to be a time that you're really having a lot of feelings about what's going on. And so make sure you're finding that support for yourself as well as your care recipient. Trying to provide purpose and activities to remind them of purpose throughout whatever activities guys are doing, and then just giving them that support and a lot more direction than previous stages. So we talked about the fact that, in the last stage, you're going to have to start taking charge more. This is a stage when you're definitely going to be taking charge of pretty much every part of the day and the activities. Moving into the late stage, so this is where your care recipients kind of going to feel more disoriented, have that passive involvement in life, and their use of language is going to start to decline. And so this is when you're going to want to assist with clothing, dressing, all of those ADLs that they may struggle to do on a daily basis. They may need their meals set up, a way for them to access them. Their meals may look different than they did depending on their needs. And so that's important to work with their care team and doctors and nutritionists just to know how to help them best. And then at this point, the goals of care are definitely just more comfort, meeting them where they're at, offering whatever comfort you can at this stage, and then starting this stage of letting go. So this is one of the most difficult aspects of caregiving, the realization that things are not going to change and the person is experiencing this cognitive change and that they're not going to quote unquote get better. It's going to keep progressing and they're not going to get those skills back that they know that they've lost. So it's important to take it one day at a time, and start to pre-plan every day is going to look different. So it is hard to plan because each day, each week, each month is going to look differently. So just kind of going with meeting your care partner where they're at and figuring out what strategies work best for both of you. One of the most important things is, again, finding that support. So finding support with family, friends, maybe a faith community, the community that you live in, your neighbors, and then, of course, joining a support group with other caregivers because it may be difficult to be in this the feelings that you're going to have as a caregiver. Many people aren't going to understand what you're experiencing, what you're going through. So having people that can relate to you can be really important and make you feel just a little bit better in that situation. So if you're interested in finding a support group, we would be happy to help connect you to either one of our support groups or even other support groups in the community. So Teepa Snow, we talked about her a little bit in the last session. So she has another video out there called the GEMS model of staging. So this kind of goes into a deeper look of the stages that we just talked about. So it's the 6 stages, and it kind of just gives you another perspective for what could be going on, how your care recipient is seeing the world, how they may be interacting with the world, and how you may be feeling as the caregiver. So I definitely recommend going out and finding that video. It should be on YouTube. Again, it's called Teepa Snow's GEMS model of staging. And then we're actually going to go ahead and watch it together.
To talk about progression. How does this disease change over time? Now, unfortunately, typically what people talk about is loss. Oh, it's worse, it's worse, it's worse. And it's going to get harder and things are going to get worse. But if that's all you're thinking about, you're missing opportunities. It's not just about the loss. It's always about what do they have left. And so I took the scales that were out there and looked at them. And frankly, they're pretty depressing. They emphasize too much. What's going to happen next? And it's not a good thing. So what I decided is let's stop talking about people as though they were less. And let's start looking at people as though they still have something. My job as a care partner is to figure out how to provide the right support and the right care so they can shine. Quit thinking about them as numbers. Is this a stage 1, 2, or 3, or a level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? And instead, how about if we looked at,
this is heavy. It's warm, loads of pockets. I'm impressed with it. This is the best skin.
how are they precious? How are they unique? What do they have that I can still use to help them live life? Because life happens, and we're both going to live it. So how's it going to be? So I thought, how about gems? How about if we thought about people as precious and unique? There's not a single gem that I know of that people don't find attractive and interesting. And if I could get you to think about people as having something positive, something good, and I got you to see them that way and understand them that way, then you may be more interested in providing the right setting and the right care so they can shine. And so what I did is I took a scale that's out there, Allen Cognitive Levels, cognitive disabilities. It's something used in occupational therapy. And I took that and I built off of that. And what we have are gems, 6 of them, 6 levels, sapphires and diamonds and emeralds and ambers and rubies and pearls. All of those are amazing gems, but they're all different. They're all unique. They all have characteristics. Now, the way I organize this is sapphire. Notice how it's on the other hand. It's a little special. It's a brain that's true blue. It's a brain that's not experiencing the changes that come with things like dementia. Instead, this is a brain that's flexible, it's organized, it's able to work with all these other gems. And when you're a care provider, it's really important to be a partner who is flexible and not really struggling on your own. But the reality is you're probably going to experience some moments that aren't sapphire-like. When that happens, take a break, because you do want to be a sapphire to care for the gems. Now, let's talk about the gems. Diamonds, emeralds, ambers, rubies, and pearls. Diamonds, clear, sharp, but rigid, have lots of facets to them, but inflexible. Not liking change, but absolutely able to shine. But diamonds can also cut you. They can hurt you because they still are who they were, but they're different. They're clear and they're sharp. So you may not even believe or think that this is real, that they have a dementia, because they know what they're doing, that she's just being stubborn. Maybe, maybe not. Sometimes things like zirconians can trick you. They look like the real deal and they're not. But if you see somebody who's acting like a diamond, if you experience diamond behavior, create the right setting and the right care, things get better. If you don't recognize it, you can get cut. So when someone is in a diamond state, what we're talking about is rigid, inflexible. I'm very good with habit and routine, the things I've always done. I'm not so good with new stuff. I don't like change, and I don't like people telling me what to do if they never told me what to do. If you were always an authority figure, we're probably in good shape. I may follow you around more and shadow you, but I won't argue with you. But if you've never been the boss of me, this is going to get to be a real problem. Emeralds, things are changing. And unlike the diamond, it's not clear and sharp anymore. There's a color, you've noticed. This is usually about the time most people get identified as having something going on. This is emerald green, go. In a stoplight sequence, the green light is go. These people are going, but they aren't always sure where. Their words are not always clear and sharp like they used to be. Their direction and the time frame, it's not always where they think they are and where you thought they were. Emeralds are always flawed, but the emerald doesn't know that. They think they're fine. Everything's fine. So if they have a problem, you're it. Or if there is a flaw, well, it doesn't matter. So this is where we start to notice changes in my ability to do things. I'm making mistakes. I'm skipping steps. I'm getting lost in a day. I get lost in my life. I think you're a different person than you are. I think I'm in a different place than I'm in. I start a task and then I go do another task having not finished that. I get turned around pretty easily. I have a flaw. But if you match up and you don't point out my flaw, it goes a lot better. So with emeralds, things are changing for both of you. And I'm no longer clear and sharp. I am struggling. And I may not know that. Guess who will be struggling? You, if you're not careful, because you want what we had before and you aren't going to be able to have that. Now let's talk about the next gem. Ooh, oh, uh-oh, ambers. Yeah, most of you don't really like ambers in real life with dementia, but let me describe amber. Amber is one of the most interesting gems because it actually isn't a found in the ground gem. It's something like sap coming out of a tree and something getting stuck in it and then more sap and then it hardens up a little bit. It's something caught in a moment of time. And that's where these folks are. They're in a moment of time. It's all about sensation. It's all about what does it feel like? What does it look like? What can I do with it? Do I like it? Don't I like it? I'm in a moment. I don't have caution. I don't have safety awareness. I'm all about if I want it now. And if I don't like it, I'm not doing it. And so this is often where, as a care provider, you really struggle because my behavior is so inconsistent with who I used to be. But an amber is an amber. They aren't a diamond or an emerald, and they certainly aren't a sapphire. So this is the point in the disease where you might see me engaging in ways, because I'm still very interested and curious, but I don't know whether it's safe or not. So I may pick up things and do things with them, and it's not okay. I invade your space. I take things. I mess with stuff. And I may have a low sensory need or a high sensory need for any of the five senses, but I don't have safety awareness and I wear you out.
With AI,
You can create any character you want in seconds.
This used to require huge Hollywood budgets.
Because I'm not always good at when and when not to sleep. It's sort of like if I feel like it, I do. Not all the time, but it's important to notice in the moment. Critical to be a sapphire. You struggle to not be a diamond at this point. Oh, yes, we can become diamonds. Don't think it's all about dementia. It's about brain change. And in a moment, you can have a diamond moment, you little sapphires. In other words, you get frustrated with what's going on and you have a hard time, particularly with ambers. The next gem, ruby. Now, ruby's changing yet again. We're no longer a caution light. We're at the stoplight. And what stops is all fine motor skill. But what do I keep? Big movement and strength. I've got some strength, but I don't have skill. So what you're going to notice in those times, I've lost fine motor in my eyes, in my fingers, in my mouth, and in my feet. So I have trouble figuring things out visually. I have trouble chewing and swallowing sometimes, but for sure, getting speech out. But I still have rhythm and I still have music. That's the gift. That's something I can still do because it feels like to you it should be skill, but it's actually sort of automatic. So with rubies, although I lost the fine skill, I still have the big. So my hands now are more gross. I don't manipulate, I hold. And because I keep strength, unfortunately, I can grab onto something. And if that something is you, I could hurt you. I don't mean to. I like pressure. I like to hold on to stuff. I don't always know how to let go. Sometimes you're having that problem too, because you're again slipping from here to here because you're going from a sapphire to a diamond. If you find those moments, and you will with rubies, because it's so scary, I can't settle down. I can't get started. It's a struggle. You need to take that step back and time yourself out. Take a deep breath, get oxygen to your brain, let go of what was so you can be that sapphire. Oh, and that's critically important when we get to this last gem, the pearl. Now, I selected the pearl for this state because at that moment, think of the outside of an oyster shell. And as you look at that oyster shell, I've got to tell you, that is one of the ugliest things you'll ever see in this world. And you never think that on the outside of an oyster shell, you're going to find this amazing thing. And at the end of this disease, what this disease does to the human body is pretty ugly. It turns on reflexes. It shuts down systems. It's making it very difficult. I lose my gross motor. And what I'm ruled by, reflexes. I'm actually stuck. I'm trapped. But with the right care, the shell relaxes just a little. And in there you find this amazing gem, a pearl, built layer upon layer on a single grain of sand. This amazing gem, still in there, but often trapped. And sometimes, if you're not careful, you spend way too much energy worrying about the shell, and you miss the most important thing. That's not the gem. With the right care, you get to see the real gem. This amazing person, not who they used to be, but I'm still in there. I'm me, but I'm different. I'm not a ruby or an amber or an emerald or a diamond. I'm not the sapphire I may have once been, but I'm still there and I'm still me, but I'm different. The question for all of us is, can we see the precious and unique? Can we experience the person as this amazing gem of great value and give them the right setting and the right care so they can shine?
Okay, so When a person living with dementia is displaying troubling behaviors such as that agitation, aggression, or even shutting down, it's really important to try and detect the possible reasons the behavior was triggered. And so to do this, we give you guys the acronym PETA. So PETA stands for Person, Environment, Task, and Approach. So the person, are they experiencing some depression? Are they fatigued? Are they tired? What are their medications? Are they on a new one? Had they just taken their meds? Are they getting close to needing their meds again? Are they maybe experiencing some illness, some dehydration? Are they hungry? Physical discomfort? Are they in pain? Are they feeling uncomfortable in the way that they're sitting? Or have they been standing for too long? Are they confused? Are they scared? Are they feeling unsafe? Try to look at the person and kind of figure out more what's going on, like personally behind the scenes, not necessarily what is being said with the behavior, with the agitation, but what else is going on um, that may be triggering some of these things. The environment, is it cluttered? Is it dark or maybe too bright? Is it too stimulating? Are there too many people around? Is there too many things happening at one time? Too many loud noises? Maybe understimulating. Are they bored? Um, Unstructured. Do they feel confused again? Are they not really sure what's going on? Is the space unfamiliar? All of these environmental things may be causing them some agitation because they don't feel secure. Tasks. Are they getting frustrated with whatever task they're doing? Are there too many steps? Is it too complex? Do they need to break it down a little bit more? Has it not been modified for different abilities? Are they physically able to do that task? And then approach. So once you kind of look at the person, the environment, and the task that's happening, try to figure out what's going on, what may be causing some of the agitation, then comes in the approach. Come in slow, come in caring, come in patient. If you are trying to fix everything too fast, you may continue to overwhelm them. So just approach them slowly, approach them patiently, have a calm tone, especially calm body language. Again, that stress is contagious. So if you approach them in a stressed state, then they're also going to take on that stress. So just relax your body, relax your tone, speak clearly, and slow down your speech a little bit, just so that you're not adding to that agitation, so that you're not maybe making them feel rushed. And then allow them time to respond. If you ask them a question like what's going on or how can I help you, give them some time to think it through. Try not to, put words, give them the wording to use, but just let them come to whatever conclusions or kind of assess themselves and then let them respond to you. It's really important to approach from the front. So one, just getting that face-to-face eye level makes them feel important, that you're approachable, but also that way you don't startle them. If you come from behind, it may startle them and then they're going to continue that agitation because they feel unsafe. And also identifying yourself if that's helpful. So, hey, I'm so and so, I'm your caregiver, or I work here, or, um, you know, if they're in a state of you're not sure if they're remembering who you are, just telling them your name. And that way they feel a connection to you and they feel safe. So then responding to the behavior. So you've approached them, your body language is calm, you're coming from to them with a calm demeanor. Then we're going to practice these 3 R's. So recognize, reassure, and redirect. So recognize, try to determine the reality, situation, or emotional state. What's going on? What state are they in? Acknowledge their feelings. Recognize what may be happening, especially those deeper feelings if they're sad or scared or frustrated. And then validate them. Try to listen to really understand what they're feeling and why they might be feeling this way. The behavior may be in response to something. Maybe they are upset that they haven't talked to their family in a while. And so validate these feelings. I understand that you're upset. It makes sense that you miss your family and that you want to talk to them. Just validating this can go a really long way in letting them know that you hear them and that you're listening to them. And then try to reassure them. Reassure them that you're there for them and that their feelings in the situation are understood. Try to verbalize your support. We'll get through this together. Maybe a gentle touch or hug if appropriate, especially if you're close to them and know them well, and you know that one of their love languages may be touch, maybe that is reassuring to them. But if not, if they don't like being touched in the past, then this probably isn't the best way to go. Maybe just use like a reassuring phrase or something that you know will get through to them more. So what reassurance has worked in the past? What have they become upset about in the past? And what reassurance came from that? So they may be frustrated about wanting to go home. So validate this concern. Potentially ask about what they love so much about home or what they're going to do when they get there. So maybe this reassurance of that their care partner is coming to pick them up in a couple hours usually works for them, and they just need to be reminded that that's happening. Finally, if the reassurance isn't quite working or you need something else, try to redirect them. Redirect or distract them from the situation, maybe by suggesting an activity or something they enjoy they can still do. If behavior continues and doesn't calm down from their emotional state, go back to the recognize stage and go through each stage again. So if the redirection isn't working, go back to recognizing. Maybe there's a deeper feeling or a different feeling that you didn't quite recognize the first time, and maybe try to recognize some other things that may be going on so that you can continue to reassure them. Usually they just want to be seen and heard. And so if you're just come to them from a space of being curious and wanting to value them, that usually goes a long way in making them feel safe. Finally, just want to kind of reiterate that the goal is quality of life. So the goal isn't to bring them into your reality or reverse the effects of the dementia symptoms, but to just to bring them as much joy as possible. When someone with dementia is involved in an activity they enjoy, it can provide comfort, reduce confusion, and help them feel calm. These moments may be brief, perhaps just 2 to 3 times a day, but those brief 2 to 3 moments can still play a significant role in enhancing quality of life. So, what activities bring you joy? Think about what makes them enjoyable. Is it because you can do them well, or because they connect with something that truly interests you? Maybe it's the connection with other people that brings you joy. For someone living with dementia, the most fulfilling activities are often those that tap into past hobbies, preferences, or things they've always enjoyed. This person is still in there. They are still the same person they have always been. They're just experiencing different cognitive abilities. So those hobbies that they've always enjoyed, they still have a love for those. Now it's just figuring out how to accommodate with the ability that they do have to be able to still bring that hobby to them and bring them that joy. So if someone loved gardening, spending time with plants may continue to bring pleasure. Maybe they can't get out there and um, water all of the plants themselves, but maybe they can sit with the plants and, just be with them in that nature. Sometimes creating the right environment can also enhance the enjoyment of an activity. So, having a dedicated space like a craft room, outdoor patio, or just like a quiet corner can really help set the mood and make the activity more inviting and enjoyable. Remember, all of those stimuli around them can really frustrate them if it's too much. So, just having a space that feels safe and inviting for them can go a long way. And then adapting activities for their ability. So for people with dementia, activities need to be adapted to their current abilities. So, for instance, if they have always loved puzzles, maybe in the past they were able to do a 500-piece puzzle, no problem. But that might not be quite as easy for them to do anymore. Maybe going down in pieces is helpful. So maybe they do 100 or even 50 pieces. Or maybe it's not about the number of pieces, but maybe they don't have the dexterity to pick up the small pieces anymore. So maybe you need bigger pieces. Maybe they can still do 100-piece puzzle if the pieces are big enough that they can still have the ability to grab them and see them. So really the key is just working with your care recipient to tailor activities so that they're still achievable and satisfying. Effective communication and support. So clear, simple communication is essential, especially when doing activities with them. Trying to make sure that they don't feel overwhelmed or that they struggle to understand what they're doing. So just having those clear and simple instructions, using short sentences and concrete words, and also paying attention to those nonverbal cues that are signaling if they're understanding or maybe they look a little confused. That's probably a time to check in, make sure they're understanding, and if they're not, change the way that you're communicating it. Maybe bring in pictures or change your language a little bit. So sometimes direct support from a caregiver is necessary to help persons start the activity, to give those instructions, to offer visual cues, demonstrating something. Maybe you write the steps down for them or have that picture guide. And then also, but still allowing them to have that autonomy and do it themselves in whatever way they are able to do it. So, just in summary, creating activities that are enjoyable, accessible, and tailored to the person's changing needs can really just help them maintain that higher quality of life, one activity at a time. So thank you so much for joining me today for this second session of how to navigate being a strategic dementia caregiver. Feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to Amelia Robinson, the Education and Resource Services Director, with any questions or concerns. I have her email right up here on the screen, so feel free to screenshot this or take a picture if you need it. But you're also welcome to reach out to us through our website, Age of Central Texas. We have ways that you can get in contact with us. We have all the support group information and just information about stuff that we have going on throughout the year. So feel free just to look into us, and then I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. I hope it was helpful, and then I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks again so much.